Morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Bruce County July 14th Bruce County Highway Committee to order. The first thing on the agenda is to remind everyone it's our own responsibility to disclose any pecuniary interest that you may have on today's agenda. Then we move into information items. 2A, the West Road Environmental Assessment. Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I assure people we're going to be very brief. I thought it worthwhile to walk through some of the attachments onto the reports. With respect to the West Road, it's always worthwhile to look at the environmental assessment process flowchart. If we recall, a great deal of time was spent on the problem statement. This is a point, Mr. Chairman, where I like to wander a little bit, but apparently with the cameras, one's scope of wandering is quite limited. So I sit and point. So we spent a great deal of time last summer doing a discretionary public meetings to create a problem statement that we circulated in January of this year. We'll look at the problem statement in just a moment. We're now looking at conceptual designs and determining what type of schedule or if it's a master plan. We're of the opinion that it will be a Schedule C undertaking, which means we'll go through Phase 1, which we've completed. We'll go through Phase 2, which will culminate in public meetings in August of this year. We will then go through Phase 3, which is a detailed design, and that's when we'll identify specifically by road section, by cross section, all the elements that we're hoping to make improvement to. Then we'll have another public meeting, and then we'll go into implementation, which is Phase 4. So having noted that, let's take a look at the problem statement again. It identified that there's a bunch of deficiencies on the West Road. It defines a West Road, identifies road encroachments, road geometry, road structure, and surface. So that the statement, the problem statement, is to overcome those deficiencies. Mind you, we do acknowledge, which is a little unusual in these problem statements, a number of things that we learned through the public process last summer. And those are a variety of things that are listed under acknowledgements. One of which is this undertaking is not related to wind power. All the councillors were at the two meetings, or most of at the two meetings, and that was a big statement made by the many people that attended. They were concerned about a relationship. There is no relationship. We also said that any widening of the existing road allowance would be to overcome the problem elements. So this is not a situation where an agricultural country where we require ditches typically at 10 or 11 meters from center line. Yet there may be an application at the north end for that type of treatment, and we're going to have to look at that as one of the conceptual approaches, which we'll talk to at the public meetings at the end of the summer. Naturally, we're concerned with environment, we're concerned with safety, and our ongoing requirement of consultation with SON and Métis. So the bottom of the problem statement identified the process that we talked about just a moment ago. We are hopeful to have public meetings at the end of August. This is a draft notice, and we're going to review the conceptual approaches to solutions. This is not going to be a situation where we say, okay, the road elevation shall be X elevation at this location. That's not going to be. It's more of an understanding of what type of approach are we going to take based on road section. Is it going to be, the traditional approaches are do nothing, a repair, a rehabilitation, reconstruction. And I presume that there's going to be an interest and a preferred solution being in that sort of a rehabilitation reconstruction envelope, which will only require widening where the road is close to people's property. It's going to be, in our opinion, one of the solutions can be a very gentle approach, which recognizes the existing and future use of the road being that of tourism. So we'll go over those conceptual approaches at the public meetings end of August. Martin and I are looking at our time frames to see what we'll have available for August 11th Highways Committee meeting, and I don't think we're going to have it ready then. but we'll have it maturing through August, so we'll have something for the public meetings end of August. And our objective is to talk to the public again about conceptual approaches. We're going to be talking a bit about design speeds by road section, and we're going to be talking about the possibility of paved shoulder treatments in some sections. Again, you know, we've been very clear in the past of having paved shoulder treatments starting on a lakeshore type application. And in the past, we've done work on County Road 21, County Road 13 actually, used to be 21, starting at Southampton, going up towards Sauble Beach, and starting again north of Sauble Beach, going to Oliphant, and there's a potential of having paved shoulder treatment up towards Red Bay, Howdenvale, and then the use of Sunset Boulevard for treatment, and up along the lakeshore, and then coming back onto the West Road at Pike Bay Road. Those are the philosophical, conceptual discussions we'll have in August with the communities. And there will be quite a range of opinions of people that do or don't like those conceptual approaches. But we need those, the input to the concepts before we go into final, final design in stage 3 of the assessment. Mr. Chairman, that was our rambling report on the West Road.
Yeah, it was so, yeah. And, does anyone, the recommendation is that the Brian's West Road Environmental Assessment Report is just for information this morning, so it's really nothing to vote on. Does anyone have anything they want to add or any questions of Brian on this issue? If not, we look forward to some open house meetings and more information and definite dates. When do you think you're going to be able to establish the definite dates so the
Yeah, I think we have space in on Tuesday, August 30th in Lions Head, and on Wednesday, August 31st in Wyerton. I think Kerry's found us some space in 2 facilities, community center in both Lions Head and Wyerton.
So I guess I'm asking the media's here, are we prepared to say those are confirmed actual dates, or are we just heading towards those dates?
We have a meeting on August 11th. As we recognize, hopefully council recognizes, we have our annual shutdown for 2 weeks coming up fairly shortly. So Martin and I and Kerry are struggling a wee bit to get all of our ducks in a row. I'd like to say regardless that those 2 dates should be set. And yeah, we'd be prepared to announce them today to say that they will be phase 2 environmental assessment public meetings.
So mark the dates in your calendar then, please, folks, and hopefully everyone will be able to get there again.
If I can offer, there is a draft notice attached to the report, Mr. Chairman, with the dates and locations on it.
Yeah.
If that's helpful.
Okay. Any other issues around the West Road? Pretty well covers it for today. So Brian, let's move on to 2B, the Wyerton Shop Recovery Plan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everyone's aware that we had a bit of a fire, and again, we've been mentioning to many that we're thankful no one's hurt, and we lost a bunch of stuff. So we're a matter now of recovering the stuff, whether it be the building or the equipment. And I think the report lays out how we're working through coming up with a solution for the housing situation. If I can offer, what we're trying to do is getting the site plan, the building plans, organizing insurance, and getting the site demolished on behalf of the insurers in the near future. We hope to return on August 11th with a plan of recovery for you. And our expectation is going to be that we can leave the sand dome salt shed. This is a proposed site that is north here, and the old shop would be right in here, the one that burnt. Our sand dome existing is right there that we'd hope to replace in 2017, and our salt shed is right down here. And so this is a new, very preliminary site plan. You know, that shows the outline of a building, that part being a shop, that part being a sand salt storage. Right now our entrance is right up in this area, and to utilize a relatively small site, we're finding that we probably need 2 entrances, and it requires some work, both on the site and probably a bit of work on that side road that we're talking to South Bruce Peninsula about. So our hope is to use that sand facility this winter and the salt shed this winter. And again, 30% of the material taken from sand or salt is done by South Bruce Peninsula. So it's important for them and their community to have access to a facility. So we're going to retain those, and our hope is to build the shop portion and the common wall this fall, and then use salt shed, sand dome this winter, have a contractor return and build sand salt storage facility next summer after May 1st. In doing that is, I think committee council are aware that we've tendered the Lucknow shop, and the low tender was Dom Construction. We tendered a new sand salt facility in Paisley, and the low tender substantially was Dom Construction. We've approached Dom Construction to consider, once the drawing site plan and the building drawings are done, and they're schematically like the back of your report. There's a floor plan, elevations, and sections, Mr. Chairman, is determine if there's a willpower to price out this structure based on the past 2 tenders, Lucknow and Paisley. And we're hopeful to return to you on August 11th with a submission for you to consider. And that was sort of some of the above what's in the information report, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Any questions of Brian around the path forward for the wire and shop recovery that he's working on? Ann?
I was just going to say I have seen Dom Construction's work in various places, and so I think your approach is great. They have consistently done good work over the last few years in any project in a municipality or at the county. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a good approach.
Yep, thank you. And again, we'll on the 11th, we'll come back with a cost per square foot on salt storage, sand salt storage, and office in Lucknow, in Paisley, and if there's a proposal from the contractor, and make the comparison so you can see what the values are.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to highlight for committee that this situation is absolutely an emergency situation. August seems like quite some time before the snow flies, but we're not going to have the luxury of being able to operate out of the facility come winter control season. So,
if I may, Mr. Chairman, I apologize, but our people are filling the sand facility. I think the salt has got 600 ton of salt around the yard right now, because we're filling that facility shortly, because we have to make some movement now to clear the site to have the room to do this work. So it's not, the fire area hasn't been demolished yet. The insurance people are pricing that demolishment because they're paying for the demolishment. But we're filling the dome to get out of the way of all this other activity. So we're sort of moving ahead with the use of the facility, sand and salt, for this winter. No commitment to contractor, but we're moving ahead. So one way or another, we're going to be using the facilities that remain for this winter.
Okay, well, Brian, I think you're certainly on the right path, so unless you hear anything different, keep up the good work, and we'll hear more on August the 11th then. Is that okay with everyone? Hearing nothing, Brian, let's carry on then to items 2C, tender summary attached.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just 2 or 3 items for your attention. I don't think anything of large costing, and no contracts.
And the tender summary for June 23rd to 16 to July 14th, 2016 is for information. If there's no, is there any questions on that? If not, then I think that just pretty much bring us to the end of the agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, is that a recommendation, is this a recommendation or not? This, not, very good. All sorted out, Mr.
I could
Chairman?
read it was information, Brian, I didn't need.
Yes, you're right, actually.
Okay. Hey, Brian, what about, do you have any information to share or any knowledge of, that you could verbally report on the construction of the roundabout at Alvanley? It hit the media yesterday pretty good, and like, are they in contact with you or anyone else about,
Yes, Mr. Chairman. MTO have a consultant working on their behalf, and our foreman from Wyerton has attended one, if not two, meetings on behalf of the department to be aware of the detour routes primarily. And I think the detour routes, they're considering two different detour routes, one on the Bruce side, one on the Gray side, from what I understand. And Larry, our foreman from Wyerton's, been a party to that, and keeping Ray Underwood, foreman from Paisley, aware of what's going on for detour routes. He's down on construction on Road 40 this year. So yes, we are aware. We're thankful they're moving ahead. We've not, and we're naturally facilitative of getting them up and going. But there will be some short-term inconvenience as people use Gray Bruce line and have to detour either east into Gray or west into Bruce.
right, I guess the point is even Aaron Ellerslie, they're going to be using some of our roads, and we've had no contact or notification whatsoever. How's EMS? Has EMS been brought into the loop on some, there's going to be some huge detours here, unfortunately, on this road.
Actually, yeah, we have had a couple of meetings. There was an initial meeting about a week and a half ago, and one of the shift superintendents did go up and attend that, and they did give an outline of what the major detour routes were. And we're getting a weekly, bi-weekly sort of update from them just by email as to what the progress is. So we are aware of it, and our staff are aware right now. If there's any, right now, if there's no detours as far as us, they'll allow emergency vehicles through. When it gets down to where they're actually going to shut things down, we'll be notified more if there's a specific route that we won't even be able to get around an area.
Very.
Mr. Chairman, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen the chart, but Larry led me to believe that the detour routes are county roads on the Bruce side. Like, I think they're going Road 5 into Terra, north on Road 10, then Road 14 to Road 8, and then into Hepworth. That's what I've heard.
That's fine, and I guess, and that's, if they're going to use all the county roads for a detour, that's a big detour, and I'm concerned about EMS, so that's a big detour. You know, so, okay, information. Anything else, anyone? Okay, the next meeting then is August the 11th. The August committee meeting will be held at the new Wyerton Planning Office, 268 Burford Street, Wyerton. Nothing further? Robert, is that a motion to adjourn? Good man. Second by Ann. All those in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you, Brian.